What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Astral Sorcery, and today we're going to be going over rituals. Now, to actually get a ritual running, we are going to need to set up a couple different things. The main one being we need to make a ritual pedestal and set up a small multi-block under it, and that is where we will place a crystal, be it rock or celestial, that is attuned to one of the many constellations that we have above us right now that we've discovered using the attunement altar, and that is what's going to determine the actual effect the ritual is going to give us. There's a ton of different cool effects that you can get depending on what you actually attune it to, and then based off of the stats of the crystal that you're attuning, there's a couple that are going to affect both the ritual effectiveness and the ritual range. So this is one of the first times we're actually going to be able to put the stats of the rock crystal to good use. So obviously there's a ton of stuff to go over today, but before we jump into today's episode, you should know that the one thing you will need prior to this is the attunement altar. Now, we set this up last episode, so if you haven't seen that, I would recommend you go check it out. You do not need to have attuned yourself yet, but you're going to want this set up because we have to attune whatever crystal we're using. Today we're going to use a rock crystal. Celestial are obviously more powerful, but you can start out with rock. You're going to need to attune that in here like you would a player to whatever constellation you want for the desired effect. So, the first thing that we are going to have to go over is actually crafting the ritual pedestal, and this one, super easy to do. It's just going to require a ton of marble, some liquid starlight, either a rock crystal or a celestial crystal. We should just use a rock one with the worst stats we possibly can get, and then some gold. So nothing too bad. We've got all the stuff we need right here. Then we're also going to take a quick look in the Astral Tome at the ritual pedestal here. And if we flip over, we can see all the requirements for setting up this multi-block. So as I said, it's really not that big, but we're going to be using 20 marble arches, 24 marble bricks, 1 chiseled marble, which is going to go right below it in the center, and then 12 regular marble to actually set this up with the ritual pedestal in the center. So once we have all that, the other things that we are going to need are going to be a rock crystal with really good stats, specifically for enhancing whatever ritual effect or ritual range that you want to increase. And I will be putting up a little graphic on the screen right now so you can figure out what those stats are. Right here, we are going to be using the Vicio constellation because it's going to give us creative flight. So actually having a focus on Vicio is super beneficial for us, but we're also going with purity too. So that should net us a relatively good gain on both the ritual effectiveness and the ritual range. Really all I care about is range, but it's up to you which you want to do. So that'll be, like I said, the first time that we are actually going to be able to put the stats on the crystal to good use. Up until now, we've been able to just use the junky ones. And then also to finish things off, because we want to see the range, we are going to be making an upgrade to the Domic Resonator. So it is the Domic version, and this will allow us to see the range of the ritual. To do that, we are going to need to make the star metal cutting tool so that we can get star metal dust to use in the actual crafting of the upgrade. So that's where this right here comes in. 2 infused wood, 3 gold nuggets, and 1 star metal ingot is the crafting needed for that. So we can grab out all this stuff and we should be good to start. So the first thing that I want to do is actually attune this rock crystal. So we want to make sure we're getting out the correct one. You want to make sure you're using the best one you can, because obviously you want the most powerful, largest range ritual possible. This will be the first time you will ever actually care about the stats, so be sure to find a good one. Obviously you might not have a perfect one, but that's totally fine. We'll go over later how you can make perfect ones for the ones you want, but right now, just to get started, whatever one is decent will be sufficient. So all we're going to do is toss this down. This ritual or this attunement is already set up to make this attuned to Vicio. That's what we attuned ourselves to. Ironically, I guess we're going to get a ton of use out of it, so we don't need to replace down the astral relays, but we're going to let this attune itself right here. And once it pops it out, we should be good to go and set up the actual multi-block and do the crafting using the Starlight crafting altar. So it's finished up here. We can grab it, and you can see it's now called a Vicio crystal. Okay, so now that we actually have the attuned vicio crystal, we're good to go with doing the starlight crafting altar to make the ritual pedestal. So we have everything we need. Obviously, again, this rock crystal can have pretty much whatever junk stats you want on it. It doesn't really matter. So definitely don't use a good one that you could obviously attune for a ritual in this case. And as we can see, it requires a fair bit of starlight to actually craft, but thankfully we are almost there. So now we should be good to go. Oop. There we go. I guess we were right at the line when I clicked it, but this will probably take a little bit to craft. So over here is where we are actually going to be setting this up. Again, it's not a very big multi-block that needs to go under it, but we'll be putting it right over there. So if we want to now grab out everything we need, I know people keep telling me this, so I guess I can show it, but I think it should be... We'll build it right off the center here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here is where this is going to go. If you right click with the resonating wand, when you have anything that needs a multi-block below it, like an altar below it, it will show the blocks that you need to make it easier to set up. So that's just something that I know people have been pointing out repeatedly. This used to not be the actual function. There used to be something called a sextant that would do this. I personally think it's still very hard to actually see what you're putting down. So it's, you know, obviously like this is supposed to be a marble arch. It'll tell you, I believe, if the block is incorrect. Obviously it tells you if there's something in the way. So if we want to see, yeah, so we can see that this tells us that that is the wrong block. So I think it is slightly useful, but honestly, it's still, at least for me, kind of hard to see what we're actually supposed to be putting down, especially when all these blocks are so similar. They're all just different variants of marble. But here we go. So we are just going to throw all of these down, fill this in. I think this looks pretty cool, although I do wish it used some sooty marble in it, just because it's nice to have a little bit of variation. And then these are the last of that, I think. Nope, we got to put them right there. Okay, and then we just fill in the 3 on each side like this. Obviously, you want this to have vision of the sky. And if we wanted this to actually start working, all we need to do now is toss the vicio crystal in here. So this is an absolutely awesome visual effect right here. This is one of my favorite by far. It looks really, really cool. You can see this almost looks like a collector crystal in here. And now... look at that. We have creative flight. So this is crazy cool. I'm going to put on the screen right now a list of all the different effects that you can get depending on what you attune the crystals to. Obviously, rock crystals are going to be a little bit less potent than the celestial crystals, but rock crystals will still do. And then we can also end up empowering this using a collector crystal that is attuned to the same constellation as this, firing it over, and then there's a couple things we got to set up around here to basically force all of the starlight into it, and we can get a crazy huge range. It'll go like 10 plus chunks in every direction, so eventually you'll basically be able to have creative flying wherever you want if you use vicio. But for now, the range should still be pretty decent. The one thing is it's important for us to actually have a sense of that, because obviously if I go out of the range, I'm going to fall and potentially die. So to actually see the range of this, we need to upgrade our Domic Resonator to a Domic Resonator. So the way that we do that is if we open up our Astral Tome under Attunements, we should be able to see, where is it? Right up here, the Domic Resonator, which looks very similar to the Domic Resonator, but it's red. To make this, you need a regular Domic Resonator, 4 illumination powder, 2 glass lenses, and 4 stardust. So all of these are pretty easy to get. We've actually used all of them except stardust, but we have used star metal ingots. So the way that you get stardust is by taking star metal ingots when they're on the ground and clicking on them with a star metal cutting tool, and it will pop out the dust. So really all we have to do is make the star metal cutting tool, which is pretty easy and pretty cheap to make. So, whoops, click the wrong one there. There we go. We should be able to craft this pretty quickly. And once it pops out, we will just convert all 4 of our current star metal ingots that we have into star dust, and then we should be good to craft with it. So you can't actually do this in a crafting window. You need to throw it down, and then if we just, whoops, click on it, we are able to turn it into stardust. So I wonder if you can do multiple at a time. I actually haven't tested this out. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So you just got to click on it a couple times, and there we go. We have all of the stardust we need. So annoyingly, you can't really click on the resonator over here. And I believe if we type in Domic Resonator, you don't actually have one show up in here because the Phosic Resonator and the Domic Resonator are the same thing. You simply upgrade it and then you can swap between the two. So we're going to have to manually plug these things in. I know, super lame, but then we're going to be able to craft it. So hopefully we have enough nighttime left. Yep, we have plenty of time left. So once this finishes, I'll be able to show you guys both how you can use this as a Phosic Resonator and as the new Domic one. So obviously this is still a Phosic Resonator. We are still blinded by the extremely dense Phosic field right here. But if we shift right click, you can now see it becomes red. This goes away. And now it is the Domic Resonator. So we can use this to see the range of these rituals. So if we were now to right click on this ritual, we can see that we have this crazy graphic that's going to indicate the range of this ritual. So not too far, but it should cover our whole base pretty much. Now we got to get rid of this creeper here. We always have creepers coming to kill us, and apparently we got a guy back here too that wants to kill us. So, but you can see that we have a pretty solid range for this. It'll cover our whole base, so that'll make some building and setting stuff up a little bit easier. So now all we got to do is fly around, and it is becoming very apparent to me that I need to light this up. But we can actually set up another ritual if I want that makes it so hostile mobs can't spawn within its area. Maybe we'll just do that, and then we can leave certain parts of the base completely unlit. Another example of how some of these rituals are crazy useful. This one is, I think it's amazing. It's so easy to access Creative Flight using this. So I would definitely recommend at least setting up a Vicio one, if not the other ones. I'm also going to see if there's some cool automated setups we can use potentially with the ones that allow us to turn stone into ore and break blocks and things like that. There's definitely a possibility, so it'll be exciting to see that. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. I honestly am just in love with this. It's so cool to be able to have Creative Flight with this, and there's a ton of other stuff we'll be able to do and make this even more powerful in the future. But I just love everything about this. We're super fast now after we attuned ourselves. We got all this movement speed. This is making us even faster and allowing us to fly. It's just great. So to all the people who have always wondered if it's worth it to get into Astral Sorcery, I think if your options are doing this or doing something with a tech mod to get creative flying, I think this is way better. It is so much easier to do this and get it than it is to set up stuff and get creative flying, like in the Surviving with Mechanism series when we had to get the mecha suit and get the creative flying and stuff using the end game. Oh my gosh, what was it called? The end game item. I can't even think of the name of it right now. But it was so hard to get it. To actually get creative flying was so difficult. This you can get within probably like an hour of tinkering around with Astral Sorcery. So that's enough rambling for me though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will talk to you later.